2 semesters ago, I started taking Spanish classes at Lehigh because I didn't have the opportunity to fully learn Spanish when I was a child. As a second-generation American, my family thought it was best to prioritize learning English and Spanish later. However, that time hadn't come until later in my education. I voiced this to my professor in adding my desire to one day be able to fully have conversations with my family and extended family back in my home country. Though the professor was off in the way she was acting towards me, getting visibly upset when I asked questions, or offended by my opinions in the concepts being taught to my peers, by saying, "There's just not one way of saying this, you can say it like this." As even though I'm not able to speak fully in Spanish, I can understand and respond simply. She would get very upset and say, "That's not in the syllabus or vocabulary. Don't say that." A language can't be contained in a list of words or formulas. For example, in English, there's all sorts of accents as it's spoken differently in other countries, and they have their own words to illustrate what they are conveying. The same in Spanish. However, even though this bothered me, this wasn't the thing that concerned me the most about her behavior. She would get in my personal space when I asked a question in a way that made me look up at her. And there was one instance where I was so uncomfortable with her in my personal space, I was looking down and fumbling with my paper, and in response she smacked it down and violently and answered, "We haven't gotten to that part yet," before I even was able to ask my question. I felt violated and hurt. I was treated with such hostility. In a way, it was like touching me, but not physical. Even peers in the class would notice this and voice their questioning, what was the deal? Even though I did have a constructive conversation with her, this shouldn't have escalated in the way that it did, and I'm still not sure what to make of that situation, as she was my professor and I was the student. She shouldn't have taken it there.
The International Office had organized a ski trip in the Poconos for international students. I decided to go, even though it had been years since I last skied. I struggled on the snow and fell multiple times. Lots of people passed by me. Then there was one person who was skiing quite well, stopped at my level and screamed, "Monkey on ice," and hurriedly left before I could catch them or even say anything. Then, a year later, things became even more different. There was an increase in the number of times I was checked by campus police and questioned about what I was doing on campus. In those times, I had to show my ID, even though it was apparent with my backpack full of books and a computer that I was a student. It always happened on the same street. To arrive on campus, I stopped walking that street when I came to or left campus.
My freshman year, I took an anthropology class. During this particular class, we talked about Neanderthals compared to DNA. The professor asked, "Has anyone done 23andMe?" Me, along with many other students, raised our hands. I just happened to sit in the front row when the professor called on me. The professor asked, "Did you notice any Neanderthals in your DNA?" Before I could even answer, he said, "Probably not. You're mostly Asian anyways." I shut down after seeing all the white kids in the back of Sinclair laughing. Even after the class, some girls came up to me to tell me that it wasn't okay what the professor did. If I could do it over again, I would have confronted the professor. By the way, I'm Caribbean, and the professor's lack of knowledge on slavery is why I'm not able to identify with being Asian.
On June 7th, a rock on campus was painted with the symbol for the Black Lives Matter movement and the quote, "We won't be silenced." A day later, the rock was scrubbed clean. How is a rock with fraternity letters and paint on it allowed, but a rock supporting the equality of black people removed?